Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning and welcome to a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Monday. Got a lot to talk about. We got a great show. We're going to have JC in just a second. We're going to have Hal Mumme, former Kentucky coached a long time, all around the place. So if you got your questions or comments, shoot them to us on the text line or Facebook Live. Good morning, JC. You're on the Titan Moore text line. What's happening?
Yeah, man, up here in the northern stretches of the Mississippi Gulf Coast in Goshen, Mississippi, on a little personal trip, and then heading back to Gainesville today. Watched some Wimbledon over the weekend, QB. I don't know if you're a big tennis guy, but the two best players on earth played yesterday, and they showed why they are the two best on earth. And
how old is Djokovic?
He's 36, and
that dude's 20.
Right. And if Djokovic had won yesterday and was very close to winning, he would have been not only the oldest Wimbledon champion at 36, but he also would have been the youngest active current champion, the youngest at 36. But now Alcaraz is at 20, and now he's got 2 Grand Slams already under his belt at the age of 20. If he doesn't burn out, I think it's very conceivable that by the time he's Novak's age and stays healthy, he will have as many as Novak does or more with, I think, 22 or 23, which is really quite unbelievable when you think about tennis. But what a great match yesterday. 5 hours, I think they played. I mean, think about that. And then, we had a non-seeded winner, Marketa Vondrousova, who won from Czech Republic as the first ever non-seeded Wimbledon champion. She's a lefty from the Czech Republic, and she dominated in her semifinal and in her final match. So very interesting Wimbledon this year if you follow that. U.S. Open is the next big major. That's in Flushing Meadows, New York on Labor Day, and I have no reason to believe that Djokovic and Alcaraz won't win. And when you think about Djokovic at 36, he didn't get to play during COVID. Nobody let him in. He would have won probably another major, at least one or maybe two, and multiple other tournaments if the COVID insanity hadn't have kept him out of tennis, which it did. And so he sat out. He comes back and just starts killing people again at the age of 36. What a specimen that guy is. He's the greatest of all time. I will argue with anybody. I got into an argument with a guy who plays tennis and teaches tennis who didn't think he was the greatest of all time. And I just said, well, you tell me what's better, the record or the player? And the record is the player. And that's Novak Djokovic. He's the best of all time. But Alcaraz is incredible.
Greg goes, talk about baseball and football games being too long, referring to tennis matches. You don't hear anybody bitching about that.
Hey, it's true. It's true. Greg's right. I mean, that thing just went on and on and on. They had one game that went for 26 minutes. Think about that, a game. And then a set that lasted an hour and a half. I don't know how these guys do it. It's just, they're supreme athletes.
Yeah. Got a lot to talk about today. Moving on from Wimbledon, Andy says, Shane, did you ever play in the American Century Pro-Am? How do you get invited? You got to be big time for that, Andy. No, I did not. But I will tell you this: I would have been in the top 15 every year if I would have played in it. Coach Spurrier played in it when he was much younger. But yeah, Steph Curry, what a phenomenal putt he did on the end. Made an eagle putt to win. Poor Marty Fish got screwed on the tee when the damn spectator yelled in his backswing. So congratulations to him. The Scottish Open was won. Rory birdies the last 2 holes to beat Bobby McIntyre, who is from Scotland. If Robert McIntyre would have won that, JC, all 3, like the U.S. Open was won by an American, the Canadian Open was won by a Canadian, and then a young man from Scotland would have won the Scottish Open, but Roy had to screw it up. So we got the British Open this weekend. So we'll see. We'll do our Peachland Dental picks. I had two guys finish 6th, tied for 6th, Fleetwood and Hatton. Hatton had to lead for a long time and blew it. JC's best finisher was the Georgia Bulldog, Brian Harmon, at 12th. Got a lot of questions here. Thomas says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon. Shane, what are you looking forward to most at SEC Media Days? That kicks off today. Today you'll have the LSU Tigers, the Missouri Tigers. Hell, they should have the Auburn Tigers today too. Had all the Tigers, but they have LSU, Missouri, and A&M. Thomas, I don't know. I mean, obviously you're going to hear some quirky comments out of Eli Drinkowitz, I'm sure. Lane will have something when he goes. I don't know what you get out of media days. It's just, I mean, what do you get out of it? You used to be a media boy, JC. You were rolling your camera.
Yeah, I did. I went to that when it was in Birmingham a bunch of times. I think there will be some interest when Hugh Freeze gets up there from Auburn. He's the new coach, and he's trying to resuscitate a dead program at Auburn. And so that's going to be interesting to hear him, I think, because he's starting over there. Of course, today we'll hear from Texas A&M. So John James gets to talk about how great he and Bobby Petrino are going to get along on the sidelines, and we'll see.
Do you think they've taken any family vacations?
Well, I mean, here's what I want to say. If
coach bonding?
Yeah, coach bonding. No, look, I think it's going to work out well for them. But just remember, these are two cooks in the kitchen right here, man. Two offensive guys on the same sideline. I know how, Bobby or John James is going to be – he's the boss. But Petrino has been a boss everywhere he's been. And so sometimes I don't know how that dynamic will play out. I'm sure it's going to work out fine. They get paid well. They want to win. And the same common goal is there. So, I'm starting to come around a little bit to your way of thinking on Texas A&M because, to me, that's a show-me type of situation there. But I think with the players that they recruit, it's hard to believe they can't do well, especially on the offensive side of the ball, which is where, Petrino focuses all his attention, of course. He's the offensive coordinator. But how would you like to be Tennessee right now, QB? How about the University of Tennessee? Did anybody have a better weekend than them when you consider that they basically saved $12 million firing Jeremy Pruitt, and then they got fined $8 million, so they net out a positive $4 million on that deal. They got a better coach now in Josh Heupel, and they're bowl eligible. They can play in the postseason. After all of this is over, we never talked about the Tennessee issues with the NCAA, but all of the transgressions that were going under Jeremy Pruitt, he's got a 6-year show cause now. This guy ain't going to work anymore. And yet Tennessee is they've gone away from penalizing people that were not responsible for the transgressions of a prior administration like they used to do when Florida was under probation and so forth, because it was backwards thinking back then. But now we at least have the right thing going on where they penalize the people who were involved and not the people who were not. I mean, these Tennessee players and coaches were, these players were in JUCO or high school. The coaches were elsewhere. They have nothing to do with what happened in Tennessee. But the university gets rid of a $12 million liability, only has to pay $8 million, and gets to still play in the postseason, maybe loses a few scholarships. It was a good weekend for Tennessee. Danny White and, of course, Josh Heupel. So that was a good thing. I'm sure they'll talk about that at media days when it's Tennessee's turn.
Got a couple of texts on the Titan Mark text line from Josh in Mississippi. Says, did y'all see Chris Doering had to dress up in LSU baseball uniform heading to SEC Media Days? Take it he lost a bet. Yeah, he and Peter Burns, who's an LSU guy. Peter didn't go to LSU, grew up an LSU fan, played golf at San Antonio, UTSA. He's a road runner.
And married a Bama girl.
Yeah, so it was – I don't know if you saw Dory. It was great. He was in the full uniform. He had the stirrups on. That's what I commented on. I loved that he wore the stirrups. And Walt had to go through the Gainesville airport, all through the Charlotte airport, all the way to Nashville. And Burns –
he loves it.
He commented it all, and it was full uniform. And but hell, he's lost like 7 straight bets, LSU, Florida, regarding what sport it is. So
Florida is not helping our guy out much, not at all.
John says it came out that Darnell Washington was one of the recruits that got paid at Tennessee. Shouldn't that make him an ineligible player, even though he went to Georgia?
Aren't they all paying now? Everybody's
but he was part of what Jeremy Pruitt was paying, ended up going to Georgia, being a really good player. Who knows? Everything they're doing now is perfectly legal. Yeah. Gene says JC is in Mississippi wearing a Mississippi State shirt. Yeah. He's an ultimate chameleon. Seems like Coach Hal Mumme coached Valdosta State with Mike Leach. That is very true. He was the head coach. Leach and Dana Holgerson were on his staff, and his quarterback, who won the Harlem Hill Trophy, which is like the Heisman Trophy for that level, was Chris Hatcher, who's been a tremendous college coach at smaller levels as well. Also, another text on the Titan Mark text line. Josh wants to know, did I ever go to SEC Media Days? Yes, I went as a senior, maybe a junior too. I can't remember. Any stories from back in the day you want to share? You got to get dressed up, which is miserable. You get on the school plane, you fly in, they pick you up, they take you straight to the hotel. You go through this line of talking to media, radio people. Then you get up on the podium, they ask you questions. You get back in the car, go to the airport, and fly home. It's miserable. It's not much fun, trust me.
QB, ever? No, it's a lot to do. But you could have enjoyed it if you wanted to. You ever heard of this? Just by talking to people and having fun. Flying on a private jet. How many people get to do that, QB? I mean, if I could take a private jet from here and get back to Gainesville, I'd be home in an hour. But that's not happening. It's called I-10. That's 6 hours. That's not fun. So, it's not that bad. What if they made you take a damn car to Birmingham back in those days?
Because none of the coaches would go then. And so you wouldn't be going.
That's right.
So that would be great.
Kimmy, you ever heard of this guy, Michael Bratton, who does this podcast called that SEC podcast? He's got about 50,000 followers on Twitter. No. You haven't? Okay. He's got the Gators 6th in the East. He
knows probably about as much about football as your people you're staying with.
He's got 50. Yeah.
I don't give a damn. I could start calling my podcast the SEC Football Podcast, and people think I'm affiliated with the SEC.
Well,
and people start following you.
But he's been on Feinbaum. He's been on ESPN. He's been around a little bit, and he's got Georgia 1, Tennessee 2, Kentucky 3, Missouri 4, Carolina of the South 5, and the Florida Gators just above.
Well, why don't you text him and tell him I will wager anything that he wants, as much as he wants.
That's right. Well, listen, that's just his pick. He's a big shot. He's got a big shot podcast. Here he is, his picture on Twitter.
Let me ask you this, JC.
He's on Fox Sports.
Let me ask you this. This is a serious question, not just to you, but to anybody. Yeah. What makes people think Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri are going to be very good?
What makes them think that? Well, I mean, they haven't recruited badly, and the coaches, I think you have to give it to Stoops a little bit. I mean, he's been
I think Stoops has done a phenomenal job at what he's done. And you've always heard this time of the year that they're going to win the East the last few years. Doring even predicted it 2 years ago, I guess.
He did, yeah.
But my point is, okay, people, the average person always wants to look at what happened the previous year. Yes or no?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Well, out of those 3 teams, the Florida Gators beat 2 of them. Okay.
Right. But the problem is,
as I tell everybody, what happened last year does not have any deal with what's going to happen this year.
Right.
But my point is, I'm telling you right now, Florida is going to surprise a lot of people. And it's not, and you know for a fact, JC, I'm never a guy that is high on teams unless I really think they're going to be pretty damn good.
Well,
I told you last year that they would be lucky to win. I mean, lucky. If they won 7 games, I thought Billy Napier would be the coach of the year. They won 6.
Well, they won 6.
And I'm telling you right now, they're going to win more than that.
Well, I think so. I mean, my God, you have to. They've won 6 games 2 years in a row now. I think that's right. But listen, Kentucky has recruited well. Tennessee has recruited very well. Missouri is the team that could have easily won 8 games last year. They played Georgia to the wire. I mean, these are reasons why. And you say it doesn't matter. That's true. But a lot of these players are back. Brady Cook is back from Missouri. You've got a very experienced team.
Okay. Well, again, like I said, I don't give a damn what they did with Georgia last year. Florida beat them.
Sure, Florida did. Okay. But South Carolina, you look at them, 8 wins.
Florida beat them by like 40.
Beat them down. But they had some great wins at South Carolina. And, everybody at South Carolina was happy at the end of the year, in spite of losing to Notre Dame in the bowl game. They were happy with the way
because they beat Clemson.
But they also won 8 games. Beamer won 8 games at that school, QB, and you couldn't have told me who their quarterback was in the first 6 weeks of the season because they didn't have
Spencer Rattler.
I mean, I'm talking about the year before. They didn't have a quarterback. They bring in Spencer Rattler. He has a pretty decent year. He was horrible at Florida. I mean, I watched that guy play at the Swamp, and I said to myself, so what's the big deal about this kid? He's throwing interceptions everywhere he goes. But he did win 8 games. And this matters to fan bases that have been down forever. And it does matter, and that's why the enthusiasm is there. That's why Florida has to win more than 6 games this year. You say they will.
They will. Like I said, anybody that wants to put some lunch on it, anybody that wants to put cash money on it, anybody that wants to do whatever.
You got to call this Michael Bratton guy because he's got you in the tank.
I don't give a damn who Michael Bratton is. I've never heard of him. I ain't wasting my time on that guy.
But I'm just telling you who he is. But listen,
again, I don't care who he is, JC. Why do I care?
Well, I'm talking sports here, QB. What are we?
I don't care what Paul Feinbaum says.
You want to talk
All
about?
I care about is what I think. Do you care what other people think about what you say?
I'm just saying this is what folks are saying out there, and you may not.
Okay, well, I went on a show in Mobile, Alabama, and I told them we were going to win 8 or 9 games. Okay, there. Text on Titan our text line. I'm not sure who this is from. Says Shane, I was in St. George Island over the weekend and ran into one of your dad's former players. He's a cook at Patty's Raw Bar. He had nothing but great things to say about your family. Thanks for the text. This is Daryl.
I won't do our
So Shane, I'm with you. I think Rocky Top takes a step back. I am as adamant that Tennessee goes backwards as I am Florida winning 8 games. Chris from Cottondale on the Titan Mar text line. Shane, I agree wholeheartedly. Kentucky, South Carolina, and Vandy should be wins. They will be. If we take back the Swamp, we'll get Tennessee also. I can't see us finish. No, we're not finishing 6th in the East. There's no chance. There's zero chance of that.
Look what I got.
See, I have a better chance of being for us finishing 6th in the East. I have a better chance of being the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah,
that's how confident I am.
Well, we're going to do our over soon, a month from now. Right about now, when we're getting ready to go to Utah, and that's coming up. But a month from now, we're getting ready to go to Utah. We'll do our over/unders on wins, both NFL and college. I want to write it down. I want to have it documented. I want it out there on the wall for the whole world to see. Put it on the website here. Zach's got it for us, and we're going to see how our predictions go. I think.
Okay, I saw this is based. This is I think this was on threes. No, this is Pro Football Focus's toughest 2023 schedules. Who do you think they have as the hardest schedule in America?
Well, look, I don't care what they have. Auburn has the hardest schedule in America. Okay, that's
Auburn's not even in their top 10. So here you are. You're telling Pro Football Focus
and Alabama and LSU.
Hang on a second. You're sitting here telling me you don't care what Pro Football Focus, who has thousands of people that Chris Collinsworth, this is his company, that pay through research, and you're worried about this slappy that has this SEC podcast. Okay,
the slappy's sitting there with Feinbaum, goes on Fox Sports. He's got 50,000.
But who cares? Who cares?
Well, I don't care what Chris Collinsworth thinks either. How about that? He works for NBC.
But my point is, do you think Chris Collinsworth and his staff has more credibility or that guy? I'm just asking.
You know what? Credibility, it depends on who you talk to. Okay, you could say that brick over there has more credibility if you believe it.
But you keep talking about him going on Feinbaum. Do you think that gives him credibility?
In the South, it does. With SEC football, that's his.
Well, I could call and get on Paul Feinbaum's show if I wanted to, but I don't care about being on his show.
Well, just do it. I'll have.
I've been on it, but I don't care. All right, so here's their toughest schedules: South Carolina #1, Michigan State 2, West Virginia 3, Ole Miss 4, Missouri 5, Florida 6, Houston 7, Iowa State 8, Ohio State 9, Kansas State 10.
Maybe, but if you don't put Auburn in there year in and year out, I think you're being ignorant. You have Alabama, you have Georgia, and you have LSU, Texas A&M on your schedule every year.
Now, do you want to hear who their easiest schedules are?
Sure.
Louisville 1, Washington State 2,
and
Iowa 3, Nebraska 4, TCU 5, Miami 6, USC 7, Oregon 8, Maryland 9, Wisconsin 10.
And where's Georgia?
It ain't in their top 10.
Well, see that again. This is why your little poll by some guy on NBC.
My point to the whole story here, JC, is believe what you want to read or don't believe what you want to read, but because not all it is opinions. I can sit here and tell you that I think A&M is going to win the West. You can argue with me all you want. Georgia, that's not my opinion. I'm just throwing that out there.
Who does Georgia play out of conference? QB, you got any idea?
No idea.
Yes, you do. Think about
it. Tony says, hell, Mike Griffith has been on Feinbaum. Do you even know who he is, JC?
Yeah, he's a Georgia guy. So let me ask you this. Tennessee Martin, Ball State. Tennessee Martin, Ball State, UAB. Got Kentucky at home. You got South Carolina at home. You got Florida and Jacksonville. You got Missouri at home. My God, they don't play a road game until November against Tennessee. You're telling me that's not in the top 10 for Georgia? And see, this is why I don't take these guys up north that follow the NFL, that follow the NBA ad nauseum, that talk about Major League Baseball 24/7. They don't know anything about SEC football. I would rather listen to
neither does your SEC podcast.
I think he does. I think he knows a lot more than these clowns because Georgia's not even being in the top 10 in the easiest schedule. And I just gave you Ball State, Tennessee Martin, and Birmingham as out of conference opponents.
Well,
for the Georgia
again, like I said, call them up, email them, or retweet or whatever you do on Twitter. Tell them they're morons, and you'll get a lot of followers.
Thank you for that. I will tell them that they're morons.
John says some guy said Georgia had the toughest schedule according to last season's win percentage. You can put any kind of spin on things. Good point.
I'm saying that this season they play 3 teams out of conference that shouldn't be on the schedule. And don't give me this crap about, well, it's a great opportunity for Tennessee Martin to play at Sanford Stadium. That's fine for those kids. Wonderful. They need the money. That's not what I watch college football for. The fact is that they were going to have Oklahoma on the schedule, but something happened where because they're not home and home with Oklahoma in successive years, they had to take Oklahoma off the schedule. But Alabama's playing Texas. And the reason why is because Texas and Alabama had home and home scheduled, so they're going to keep that. But Oklahoma and Georgia, they canceled that game because, well, they weren't going to play a home and home schedule in successive years. So Georgia replaced, or Oklahoma was taken off and Ball State was put on. That's brilliant. And I don't blame them. I mean, I understand that's the way it goes. I think Kirby would love to play Oklahoma. I mean, wouldn't you rather play Oklahoma? Of course you would. But, it's not working out. But if you're telling me that's not one of the 10 easiest schedules, you're not paying attention to college football and you're full of crap. That's one of the 10
I think you need to come up with your own polls, JC. Do your research on I-10 and put up a poll, and you'll get a bunch of followers.
I'll call it the I-10 poll. I will. I'm going to call it
do it. If you don't post it, I'm going to be very disappointed. Bruce Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. A few more minutes with JC, then we'll have Hal Mumme, longtime college football coach, here on the Titan MR Hotline. All right, back to golf. I thought this was very interesting. Let me find it.
All right, let's hear it.
Rory McIlroy, who won the Scottish Open. Listen to this list of, this is just the countries of Opens that he's won.
Yeah.
He's won the Australian Open, the Hong Kong Open. He's won the Canadian Open twice. He's won the Irish Open, the U.S. Open, the Scottish Open, and the British Open. How about that?
He's a worldly guy, and guess what?
I
got him winning it this week, too. He's won at this course before. He's won the British Open at Hoylake. It's in Liverpool. He's very comfortable there. He's very comfortable putting on those greens in that part of the world. He could have easily won the U.S. Open. He could have easily won the PGA. He could have easily won a lot. His game is as good as anybody's in the world. He will win this weekend, I have a feeling. And I just think that's, just natural for him to win the Scottish Open, too. I mean, my God.
JC, do you know who Josh Pate is?
Pate? No.
He's another one of these guys like your guy that has his own podcast. He has his own JP Power Poll. So you could have the JC Power Poll. I think you should start that. All right. Here, back to golf. Going back to golf, because Scotty Scheffler, who's still ranked number 1 in America, in the world.
Yeah.
Listen to his tee to green rankings in his last 11 events. You know how many of those he's won?
None.
1. Okay.
Okay.
But listen, Tee to Green,
Okay.
Bay Hill second, the Players Championship first, the Masters second, the Heritage fifth, Byron Nelson second, the PGA Championship first, Colonial first, the Memorial first, the U.S. Open third, the Travelers second, and the Scottish Open second. You know what that says? He's putting horrible.
That does. But the thing is that'll come back. It'll come around for him. But because this game is so well honed in, and it shows you how tough it is to win, right? It shows you how tough it is to win, which is why Tiger Woods winning 80 some odd PGA Tour events almost is as good as his 15 majors. When you think about just the sheer number of wins for a guy that spent a lot of his career injured, or lately anyway. So as he's aged and had some issues, but my God, that does say he's not putting great, but it also tells me that his game is so good that when he does start putting again, he's going to go on a run, and nobody would be surprised by that. He's back-to-back winner in a couple of tournaments, Waste Management. I think he's a back-to-back winner in another one. It doesn't come to mind.
I mean, it's
just unbelievable.
His ball striking is probably the best on tour right now. And
it's great.
The putts will fall, but
absolutely they will fall. Sure,
I mean, he's in the top five every damn week.
But it's just like shooting basketball, right? You got 3-point guys a little cold, but then he keeps firing them up there. And next thing you know, he hits 5 in a row. Scotty will be fine. I'm not worried about him. He'll be in the top 10 this weekend also. He'll finish in the top 10. If the weather is not bad, these guys.
But you want it bad.
I do, but I'm saying they will destroy these courses in Britain and in Scotland and in Ireland. They'll kill them if the weather is not bad, because I just don't think they play as far or as hard unless you have bad weather. These guys are too good, man. There's no trees. They can do anything they want. They know exactly where to hit the ball. They know exactly what to do with it on the greens. And unless the elements make it difficult, forget it. It's going to be like the U.S. Open, which did get better as we went through the weekend. But man, that was the easiest U.S. Open, I think.
Well, I played golf with a gentleman who travels around to all the tournaments because he works for an apparel company. I played golf with him this weekend, and he said it was the worst golf course he's ever been on for spectators. He said he walked some of the holes, and you wouldn't even know if a guy made a putt because you couldn't see. You would have to hear from a few people that were in a grandstand on the other side that might flap. He just said it was terrible. But
I'm very surprised the USGA picked that place to have the tournament. There's so many. It could have gone so many places. But listen, I mean that's just they got it out of the way. They'll never go back to the LA Country Club, but it's an iconic venue. I get it, but the scenery. You're right that the fans just got the shaft in that.
Okay, before we get out of here, our last question, JC, and make it quick because Hal Mumme is waiting.
Okay.
This is from Tommy on the Titan MR text line. He said, if you had one question to ask Jimbo Fisher today at the SEC Media Days, what would you ask him?
I would say, John James, if you had won at Florida State, would you have stayed there in spite of the –
He won a national title.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't win when he got fired. They were losing. And if he had continued to win, would he have stayed?
Usually people don't get fired or leave unless things are going bad.
Well, a lot of times, yeah. But, I mean, sometimes they want greener pastures. We know a guy here in Gainesville that found greener pastures in the NFL, but they weren't so green, were they? But listen, now I think the question I would have asked him was, who is the I don't know. Are you getting along with Nick Saban better? How about that? You and Nick talking? I'd ask him that. You talk with Nick? You do like Nick, right? You just got upset with him. Do you like him? I'd ask him that. Do you like Nick Saban or do you not like Nick Saban?
All right, JC.
I mean, I don't know.
Make your I-10 power poll. I-10 power poll.
I'll post that on my Twitter at JC Sports Radio, and I'll be back on Wednesday in Hogtown. Hopefully it won't be rain. Is it going to rain all week down there?
I have no idea. Just check your weather app. That's JC. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to take a quick timeout. We're going to come back, and we'll be joined by Coach Hal Mumme on the Titan MR hotline. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is head ball coach Steve Spurrier, and I'm here with my wife Jerry and our good friend Sherry Houston, the executive director of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of North Central Florida. We're thrilled to announce that the 2-year anniversary of our restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, is coming up on August 14th. Last year, we had so much fun celebrating with everybody that we're doing it bigger and better this year. We're hosting a special dinner and celebration that will include a chef's choice of premium buffet or your favorite Spurrier Gridiron Grill menu, including a filet mignon carving station, shrimp and grits, short rib risotto, wonderful seafood options, and many dessert options also.
Like my famous chocolate chip cookies.
Proceeds being donated to the local Ronald McDonald House.
Thrilled to once again partner with Coach Jerry and the Spurrier Gridiron team to raise funds for the Ronald McDonald House, benefiting families and children experiencing medical emergencies.
Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be donating 11% of all of our money from food and 66% of drink sales to the Ronald McDonald House.
Go to spurriers.com right now and reserve a ticket before they sell out.
We'll have wonderful food, special guests, and a limited edition of the 2nd year anniversary collector's coins, as well as prizes like a dinner with me and Jerry. We couldn't have become one of the busiest and most successful restaurants in the Southeast without your support. So we want to celebrate with the most important people of our team, and that's you.
I want to celebrate with some of those cookies. Do you have any of those?
Sure do. Right here for you.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Visor, Rooftop, Bass Pro Shops, Dave & Buster's, Fat Tuesday, Starbucks, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the hottest restaurant in Florida in the heart of Gator Nation. That's Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We're going to head to the Titan More Hotline now. We're joined by longtime college football coach Hal Mumme. Coach, how you doing? Appreciate you coming on the program.
I'm good, Shane. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Coach, let everybody know what you're up to now. We're going to go back when you started at Valdosta State, but what's Coach Hal Mumme doing these days?
I am working for the International Football Alliance, which is a developmental league that's going to play in the spring and summer next year of 24. And we got franchises in Mexico and the U.S. and probably a couple more to still be announced.
Very cool. Very cool. Coach, you've coached a long, long time, and go back to your Valdosta State days. I would probably, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's where you kind of got your name out there because y'all were very, very successful there. I want to say you had Leach on your staff, Dana Holgerson, Chris Hatcher was your quarterback who's become a really good coach. Just talk about those days back at Valdosta State.
Yep. I had your friend Brady Ackerman there too.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about Brady.
It was a lot of fun. We were there 5 years. Of all the places, I was the head coach at 7 different schools, and of all of them I coached at, that probably was. And Leach, Mike, a great friend, Mike Leach, used to say this too. If he could go back to one place, that would be it. It was a great experience, great people, great administration. Dr. Hugh Bailey was awesome, and his wife Joan was an instrumental person in our program. Herb Reinhardt, the AD, who's still there, by the way. They were just great people to work with, and a place that at first didn't think that we could do what we do, and by the time we had done it for about a year and a half, they totally bought into it, and we're filling up the stadium there in Valdosta to watch us play.
Yeah, I want to say I watched the celebration of life for Coach Leach, and you spoke at it, and you talked about, and maybe you need to shorten it. I can't remember exactly, but it was phenomenal how you and Leach, y'all drove. We all know he loved Key West, but I want to say y'all drove down there, and that's kind of how y'all put the air raid together. Am I right there, or did I miss the story up?
No, you didn't. That's pretty much what people know as the air raid nowadays came about on August 31st, 1991. And that was the first time we had taken our offense and then played fast with it. And we beat a team that was ranked number 10 in the nation, and they were a division above us. And not only did we beat them, we came from behind. We were down 24-7 at halftime, came from behind and won. But Mike and I went to Florida searching for a answer to our problem of that we had gotten so good so fast at that little school in Iowa Wesleyan, that no one would play us. And so by our third year there, our schedule was filled up with teams like the first one that I just described. They were all big state universities that are nowadays either dominant Division II teams or FCS teams. And so we looked at our roster of everybody coming back, which was considerable. We had a lot of players back, including our quarterback, Dustin Dewall. And it was, our schedule's so tough. We have the best team we've ever had here. We may only win 3 games. So we went looking for some answers, and we always took road trips to do that. Mike and I did. And so I told Mike, I said, find us somebody to recruit in Florida so that we have an excuse to go there. And of course, Mike being Mike, he finds a kicker in Key West. But we only had enough money to fly to Orlando, so it still left us about 9 or 10 hours short there. But as we landed in Orlando, Mike looks at me, he goes, they have this spring league going on, and I know the coaches at this Orlando franchise. You want to go visit them for today? And I said, sure, let's go. And it was the great Don Matthews, who ended up winning like 6 or 7 Grey Cups in Canada. And they were very gracious to us and let us sit in on meetings and meet with the coaches all day long. And then we'd go out to practice, and we're walking out to practice, and I looked at Coach Matthews and I said, well, tell me your best drill. And really, Shane, I thought he was going to give me like a quarterback drill or something, And he looks at me, he goes, oh, well, our best drill is bandit drill. Watch the end of practice when we do bandit drill. And I said, what's that? And he goes, well, that's where we practice 2-minute offense. Now, I'd seen 2-minute offenses before in a lot of NFL camps and stuff, but I had never seen one this efficient and this well practiced. And Mike and I are standing there watching this, and it is poetry in motion to watch his 2-minute drill. And I looked at Mike and I said, well, that's what we're going to do. And Mike goes, yeah, we're going to do it all the time, aren't we? I go, yeah, we're not doing it in the last 2 minutes. We're going to do it the whole game. And so that's how air raid got born. And then we ended up going to Key West, and we signed a couple players along the way. And we ended up at Captain Tony's late that night, and Mike got to meet Captain Tony, who told him the story about Buffett writing the Last Mango in Paris about him.
That's very cool. Very cool for sure.
Yeah. So that's how air raid got produced.
That's how it got started.
Mike fell in love with Key West.
Yep. There's no doubt. And then y'all go to Kentucky, and do something. I've always said this. I feel like teams, like when y'all took Kentucky, y'all scared the hell out of people because you knew you were going to they were going to throw it around a bunch. And to beat teams that have better talent than you, it's by throwing the football. It's the fastest way of scoring. It's very similar to how Army and Navy give people fits running the triple option. But you go to Kentucky and have a lot of success there. Would you say Tim Couch, was he the best quarterback you ever coached in the air raid?
Well, he was certainly the most successful. I mean, he was the first guy picked in the draft. It's hard for me to pick one guy. We've had 8 All-Americans, so at various levels. I mean, it's hard to say Tim would be the best on paper. That's for sure. Yeah.
I want to ask you this, very similar how, Leach hadn't been a head coach when he was calling plays for you, but you always call plays as well. Did you ever have to override anything with him? Because I'm trying to look at the situation that's going to be going on at A&M. Jimbo's called plays pretty much his whole career. Now he's got a guy who's been a head coach, who's an offensive guy, Petrino. How do you see that working out, and how did it work out between you and Mike Leach?
Well, Leach and I were good with it because we were really smart in that we let the quarterback call the plays.
There you go.
We just call formations and situations, and we let the quarterback pick the play. So I don't think that'll happen with Jimbo and Linehan, though.
Coach, when you look at the in the SEC, I think people, when they go back into the 90s, obviously when Spurrier took over the job in 1990 at Florida, he kind of changed the way SEC football was played. And then y'all came along with the air raid, did the same. A little birdie told me that Coach Spurrier got upset with Hal Mumme one year because y'all led the league in passing and the Florida Gators didn't. Is that true?
Well, that happened for 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's upset or not. Steve and I are good friends, and I always enjoyed his company. I think what they're referring to is we had a great game in 2000 in the swamp, and Steve threw a ball with like a few seconds left on the clock after we had stopped us. We had a final drive, a chance to win the game, and didn't get it done. Turned the ball over on 4th down with like 5 or 6 seconds left, and he threw a long ball on us at the end of the game, and I think they scored. Anyway, I didn't care. I mean, Steve was. I think people read a lot into that wasn't true, but yeah, there was definitely a competition between the two of us on who threw for the most yards. And I was real proud of the fact that we always threw for more yards.
No doubt about it.
It was not only win the game, you had to win the stat game too.
That's right. Silverback Concrete.
Unfortunately, Steve won all the games, so I can't take too much credit for any of that.
Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures of unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. A few more minutes with Coach Hal Mumme here on the Titan MR Hotline. My question for you is, obviously, your coaching tree is kind of spread out. We know what Mike Leach did everywhere he was at. Obviously, Dana Holgerson. Let some of our other listeners know of some other coaches that are running the air raid that they may not be familiar with. And then when you look at the success that Dana's had, what's that make you feel like, a proud papa?
Oh, yeah. Dana played for us at Iowa Wesley, and then he coached for us at Valdosta State. And then Leach hired him at Texas Tech and with him for a long time. But, yeah, I enjoy watching all these guys play. I mean, it's fun for me because you know how it is when you're on a team or on a coaching staff. I mean, you're involved in their lives, and so it's a lot. I'm a proud guy about it, and I'm proud of all these guys. But to name a few, you already mentioned Chris Hatcher at Samford, who's doing a terrific job. Chris is probably the best coach in football that nobody knows about. Neil Brown at West Virginia, Sonny Dykes at TCU had a terrific year last year, and my son Matthew at Colorado State is the offensive coordinator. They've had a great run at Nevada. Now they're trying to turn Colorado State around. We had just Bill Biedenbaugh is probably one of the best O-line coaches in America at OU. Lincoln Riley at USC was Mike's disciple at Texas Tech. Mason Miller, who's now the offensive coordinator at my alma mater, Tarleton, but he was with Mike at Mississippi State and Washington State for a long time, is also one of the best O-line coaches in America. Matt Moore is the O-line coach at West Virginia. He was our team captain at Valdosta State and has been with Neil for a good while. And I'm sure I'm going to leave some out, but that's give everybody a rundown.
Yeah, it's a pretty good tree there, Coach. Today's college football is just crazy. I mean, it's with the NIL, the transfer portal. Do you like it, or do you wish it'd go back to kind of how it used to be?
Well, I'm not in it, so I guess I don't really care. But I know I listen to my son a lot, and I listen to some of those coaches I just named some, and I think it has its own set of headaches that we didn't have when I was in it. But it's I don't know the answer to that, Shane. I'm not going to pretend like I do.
Yeah. I have a text here on the Titan Hour text line from Jimmy in Charlotte, North Carolina. He says, Coach Mumme, what is the biggest difference between the air raid and Spurrier's fun and gun?
Well, there's probably more similarities than there are differences.
Agreed.
I guess really probably the most obvious one to fans is that we played fast all the time, and you guys didn't. And I'll never forget the first time I ever met Steve was when I got the job at Kentucky, and we were at the American Football Coaches Association big banquet because we both got Coach of the Year awards that year. And you guys had a great season at Florida, and they put you in this like green room before you go on stage. And I heard this guy yelling across the room, Hal Mumme, Hal Mumme, come over here. I go over and it's Coach Spurrier, and he goes, we don't run the shotgun at Florida. How come you guys run the shotgun all the time?
Yep.
So, he never fails to always delighted to be around him because he never fails to be curious about what you're doing, and he's just a great guy to be around.
I used to beg for the shotgun. They didn't put the shotgun in. I never ran one play out of the shotgun. And then after we got our brains beat out, Werfel and that crew against Nebraska, the very next year he put in the shotgun. Coach, before we let you go,
and he started running a lot at South Carolina finally. Yeah.
Before we let you go, I got to ask you this because it's fascinating to me because I love offensive football. People got all these big playbooks and these big scripts on the sideline, and you look at what Leach had. You look at Lincoln Riley; they got the little bitty card. Yeah. Can you tell us like how many plays y'all went into a game with? It's just amazing to me, what you see now, and then you see an air raid offense with this little index card. May not even be that big.
No, I mean, I always kept it in my back pocket and I memorized it. We scripted anywhere between 10 and 25 plays to run in the game, and we ran them pretty much in order to begin the game. Just like Bill Walsh did at the 49ers. I got it from Bill Walsh. And so an entire game script for me would have about 45 plays on it. And a lot of them are the same play, just out of different formations. Mm-hmm. Probably total plays, if you just wanted to count the generic version of it, there was probably about 10 or 15.
I got to ask this because, like I said, I have no background in the air raid, but it seems like every damn coach, when they signal in, they do the little thing over their eye, their right eye. You know what I'm talking about, Coach? You probably can't see me. Is that a formation or is that a play?
You're talking about looky.
Yeah, I guess they just, yeah, I don't know. I just remember Leach doing it all the time. And I see Lincoln Riley doing it all the time.
Yeah, that's lucky.
That's a pass play.
No, it's just a reminder, is what it is.
I got you. I got you. All right. So, as you just mentioned, Lincoln Riley runs a lot of your stuff out there. You think USC has a chance to win it all this year? He's got a damn good player at quarterback.
Boy, he does. I think that kid is phenomenal. I watched him at OU when they came off the bench to beat Texas. Excuse me, Shane. He's well, I hope so. I hope he has a chance to win it all. You know, it'll be interesting. It's tough being on the West Coast because they don't get the coverage that you get on the East Coast. And so getting in that, you can't have as many mistakes on the West Coast as you do on the East Coast.
That's true. All right, last text here on the Titan Mar text line from Robert. He says, Coach Mumme, do you know Billy Napier? Do you think he can get us Gators back to winning like we used to?
I do not know Billy. I'm familiar with his work, and he's obviously done a great job. I hope he can get the Gators back. They need to be back. Coach Spurrier did that and turn them into, the program that you came out of, Shane, and a whole bunch of other great players. So I hope Billy can get that done.
Yeah, don't we all? Well, Coach, we appreciate you getting up and being a part of our program. Really liked how you coached all those years. Loved watching Leach and Lincoln Riley and that crew. So congratulations on a great year, and we'll have to follow that International Football Alliance and see how that goes.
Yeah, there'll be some publicity on that pretty soon. We've been working kind of silently for about 9 months, and there'll be some stuff out that everybody can get interested in. I like working with those developmental players for the pros because they're just great players to work with. There's not a lot of egos, but always enjoyed watching you, Shane. You're a great player, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yes, sir. Take care, Coach. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Shane. Bye-bye.
That's the great Hal Mumme joining us on the Titan MR hotline, and we appreciate him getting up and being a part of our program. Let's get to This Day in Sports, which is brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Today, in 1990, the Minnesota Twins became the first team to turn 2 triple plays in a single game, but lost to the Boston Red Sox 1-0. That's This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit. You want to thank JC and Hal Mumme. Hal Mumme is a tremendous speaker, and if you didn't see the celebration of life for Coach Mike Leach when he spoke, it was great. But very successful coach, been to a lot of different places, really understands the game of throwing the football, and they invented the air raid, and a lot of teams using it now, and we appreciate him coming on our program. Tomorrow we'll have Buddy Martin. We'll recap what happened in day 1 at the SEC Media Days. Again, today is LSU, Missouri A&M. And then the Gators, Billy Napier and the crew, they go on the podium on Wednesday. If you missed my man Doring, he lost his bet on the Florida LSU Championship Series with Peter Burns, his co-host. It was great. If you got Twitter, you got to look at Peter Burns and Doring's feeds. And Doring walked through the Charlotte airport fully dressed in an LSU baseball uniform, sitting on the plane going to Nashville was classic. And good sport by Doring. He's upheld all his losses, and hopefully we can find a way to beat the LSU Tigers this year in football. Hope you enjoyed today's program, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.